Are you visiting the London for the first time, or maybe just want to learn a few more tips before traveling to London? London quickly became one of our favorite cities with the seemingly endless attractions, great restaurants and pubs, and abundant shopping. The hustle and bustle of the city is contagious. London has something for every type of traveler, but the fashion trendsetter to the adventurous foodie to the history buff. But before visiting, it's helpful to become familiar with the culture and customs. So in this video, we will discuss some of the best things you should know before going to London, and it helps you to enjoy the city to the fullest. Let's get started. Number 13. London is big. Yeah, there's no denying it. London is huge. With millions of people, the city and metropolitan area are ginormous, to say the least. If you've only got a few short days in the city, try to stay in the best areas in London that you want to explore or at least close by. This will save you a whole lot of time traveling across the city every day, especially as traveling in London can add up to several hours per day in transport time. Number 12. Get an Oyster card. An Oyster card for transport in London will save you time and money when it comes to those pesky travel-related costs. Grab an Oyster card, which is free, with a small refundable deposit from most tube stations and preload a given amount onto the card. When using an Oyster card, your journey has a maximum daily cap that you can spend in one day. This means that after doing 3 or 4 journeys, the rest of the day's travel will be totally free around the whole of London. It's one of those interesting facts about London you wouldn't really consider without knowing. Number 11. Fly into low-cost airports. If you're looking to keep costs low, then there are a few interesting facts about London you need to consider. You see, when it comes to getting yourself to London, you can grab a low-cost flight to one of the more regional London airports. These airports tend to prioritize the cheaper landing fees, with airports like London Luton, London Stansted, and London Southend all being cheaper than places like Heathrow or London City. That being said, there is a downside too. Stansted is about 45 minutes by train or 1 hour by bus to the city center. Number 10. Museums are free. This is one of my favorite things about our city and one of the interesting facts about London you might not know if you're visiting a country that charges for museums. Museums like the National History Museum, the Science Museum, the British Museum, the National Portrait Gallery, and the Tate Modern, plus much more, are free too. Spend a day wandering through the many historical artifacts and enjoy the rich heritage the city has to offer. Obviously, donations are welcome, though in no way obligatory at all. Before proceeding further, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon for more informative and amazing videos. Number 9. Grab discounted fares. If you're under the grand young age of 26 or a student over the age of 60, as a couple, or perhaps traveling with your family, then you'll be eligible to pick up a rail card from any train station, costing approximately £30 for 1 year. This card will give you 33% discount off rail travel and tube travel at off-peak times, a massive saving if you're visiting the city multiple times. It's easy to use and one of the interesting facts about London that'll keep your transport costs lower. Number 8. Tipping isn't essential. Tipping isn't as big as a deal as it is in the United States or other countries, but that doesn't mean it isn't appreciated. Usually, a small 10 to 15% tip is more than fine for a restaurant, whilst there is no need to tip at any bar or for drinks. There's also no need to tip when hailing a cab, though it often makes sense to round up the amount to the nearest pound. It's one of the interesting facts about London that might seem quite strange if you're used to a culture of tipping, though you might find that some of the best restaurants in London do add an optional service charge of about 12.5% to bills. Number 7. Tour London cheaply. Okay, so there are a lot of those hop-on, hop-off buses that drive all across the city, but often charge a pretty high price tag for the convenience. Great if you're in a rush, but not so great for your wallet. Though, if you're visiting London on a tighter shoestring and want to save money, there are a few interesting facts about London that'll save you a pretty penny. For instance, if you want to save a great deal off that price, then jump on board a Red London bus. One of my favorite journeys to take is on the 24-hour bus number 453. From Marylebone Station, hop on and grab yourself a seat upstairs. You'll pass Regent Street, Piccadilly Circus, Leicester Square, Downing Street, Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, and the London Eye, where you can hop off and experience London's South Bank by foot before it heads further south. Number 6. Avoid Oxford Street on Saturday. A weekend shopping on Oxford Street can be something of a stressful ordeal as the streets become filled with thousands of people. There can sometimes be literally no space on the pavements, and even the tube closes due to crowd control. If you're geared up to shop, think about heading over to Oxford Street around mid-morning and preferably on the weekday. Crowds are much lower, and you can easily pursue the shops at your own pace. Number 5. See where Liberty Bell was made. Head to the Whitechapel Bell Foundry to visit the world's oldest bell maker. Not only did they make the likes of Big Ben, they actually made the Liberty Bell that is now so symbolic for the United States of America and its people. Although it is currently closed, the property still exists in Whitechapel and is easy to find if you're in the area. It's one of the most interesting facts about London that not even many Londoners know. Number 4. Secret of Buckingham Palace. Not many people realize that you can actually tour Buckingham Palace in the summer months. Tickets can and should be purchased online before you travel, and it's well worth a visit if you're planning on marrying into royalty or just fancy a good nose around the Queen's Gaff. It really is one of the interesting facts about London that some international visitors don't realize. Number 3. Grab a local SIM card. Free Wi-Fi on the streets of London can be pretty bad unless you fancy spending lots of time in Starbucks or Apple. If your phone is unlocked, grab yourself a local SIM card to make calls and internet allowance at a fraction of roaming costs. One of the best providers for cheap SIM cards when it comes to value for money is giffgaff, followed by 3. Though you can pick up SIM cards quite easy to use in most electronic stores in the city. Number 2. There's a garden in the sky. Well, on top of a skyscraper at least. Tickets are totally free, as this is a public space which can be enjoyed by anyone. See some impressive views across the city and even stop for a bite to eat if you like. It's a great place for a view, and one of the interesting facts about London that you might not know exists when looking for the best viewpoints. Number 1. Walk between tube stops. Speaking of travel, there are quite a few stations where it's actually quicker to walk rather than take the tube/bus. Case in point being Leicester Square to Covent Garden. The walk will take less than 3 minutes, which is quicker than going underground on the tube and won't cost you a dime. It's easily one of those interesting facts about London that most people don't think about when visiting. Tube stations can get very busy, while quite limited space for everyone to move. The escalators up and down the stations have standing and walking lanes on them. Always stand on the right if you intend to stand, and use the left if you plan on scaling the stairs faster than a gazelle. It's honestly one of those interesting London facts that you just wouldn't know if you didn't live here. That's all for today. When will you plan your next trip to the London? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more informative and amazing videos.